Where are you guys?
It's like late night. This is a late night
I was thinking
episode.
late night whiskey.
Late night whiskey. A little bit later than our usual time, but I think we'll be okay.
I think so
I think
too.
we'll be okay.
Well, dude, a lot of those topics you sent over were awesome. Awesome.
Welcome to another week, right? Another week down. Another try to test run here, I guess.
Yep.
But we'll get there.
Bradley Baker needs sleep. Hey, what's everybody drinking? Here. What are we drinking today, fellas?
Happy Wednesday. Cheers. I'm gonna go with the 1792 again.
Okay.
I'm still on the Bullet Rye.
There you go. And I'm on the Woodford. I'm on the Woodford tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go to the and make some more purchases and kind of stock up.
Well, at least we know we're not all alcoholics.
I know exactly. Right?
The same whiskey as last week.
Yeah.
Well, I think I did the Wyoming for a minute, but this bottle has been
the Jumbo Woodford,
5 or 6 weeks old, and also through a dinner party, by the way.
Oh, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's a Costco size. It's industrial strength, you know.
That's good. That's
the economy size.
You're lucky you guys have the Costco where you can buy that stuff. So that is good.
Well, yeah, another Wednesday evening, crazy week, I think, for all of us.
Mm-hmm. A lot of interesting stuff. A lot of interesting stuff happened this week.
I feel like you leveled up.
Interesting stuff. A lot of fascinating news in the world going on right now, and it's starting to see a lot of kind of. I don't want to say I'm surprised. I'm starting to see a lot more unique uses of technology, and just a lot of people kind of trying to adapt to like kind of the current kind of viewpoints on technology and marketing, stuff like that. It's just there's a lot of, I mean, from very different angles, right? Whether it be crypto and NFT stuff, digital marketing stuff, branding stuff. Everyone's kind of, I think, really trying to pay attention to what's happening, and
I was
with technology, really.
I was listening to Fanzo, of course, and he was interviewing that guy Philip, that guy from South Africa, Zach, and he was talking about how they were working with Coke to come up with a vending machine in the virtual world. And so they threw it at a bunch of engineers. Like, what do you think should come out of a vending machine in the metaverse? Did you hear that one, Zach?
No.
And so the bunch of these engineers came up with stuff like, oh, I'm gonna, it's joy is gonna come out, or enlightenment comes out. And so like all these different sensations that you might have when you drink a soda, but it would like put you into a snow globe and you could do a Christmas photo. And so that sort of stuff is what comes out of these virtual vending machines. And I thought that was crazy. It made me feel like we're way behind after hearing that.
Well, I don't know. I see that in the same on the same topic. Like, I think actually the opposite. I think things I've been reading about people adapting NFTs in the real world and kind of using them for business applications. They're kind of being very nearsighted in their applications. They're looking at them very. I feel like the things I've read today and over the last week is that they're just very simplistic. Like they're really missing the point of what you can do with these things, right? And we stumbled across a couple interesting things in terms of the hotels using them for reservation systems, and for Instagram kind of trying to integrate it into their, all these things we'll talk about a little bit deeper as we go along here, but Instagram trying to integrate them into their system, and even Getty and stock photography, which I thought was the most simplistic approach, which is it's like you're just gonna create NFTs from your stock photos. Like, okay, fine. Like, so you're just using your existing database of. I mean, it's very basic. I feel like, and it's not for companies of that size. and of that much reach, you'd think you would come up with a better use of that technology rather than just putting, making NFTs, like making stock photography,
Right.
or even rights managed photography and NFT. Okay, yeah, that's the basic use of this. Like, okay.
Well, like Seth Rogen,
yeah,
what was not
Seth Green? That was
Rogen,
that was
Seth
that's a
Green,
different
yeah.
whole thing altogether. That has to do with kind of NFTs.
But I think there's a lot of projects out there like that, Eric, that shouldn't have launched, or they just didn't. They were trying to be cash grabs and just trying to.
Well, but these are actually
capitalize.
But what I'm talking about, these are businesses that are trying to invest in the technology, but they're just like investing in a very basic way, like, and not really thinking.
Yeah, same thing. They're just trying to jump on quick, and it's just it's not thought out.
Yeah, I mean, so what we're referencing in, for those that don't know, is that starting from the basic, right? Getting Images said that they're going to create NFTs from their kind of, they have 500 million assets, right? 500 million photographic assets, whether they be, stock photography, rights managed photography. They have just this database of art, really. And what they're going to do is they're going to pretty much, cherry pick from there and create NFTs from there and sell them, which is like, okay, great, fine. You can do that. Anyone can do that. It's just like saying, I have photos, I'm going to sell NFTs. Great. Well, why wouldn't you leverage the potential technology and create something akin to what we're talking about, which is having to do with memberships or membership programs or something that's a little bit more thought out in terms of, the more you spend, the more you make, the more you earn, the higher the value of your NFT goes, rather than just selling one-offs. Right.
And as we get into this space, people are they don't know what to do. And so they're doing what has already been done, thinking that's the thing to do and it's going to work.
Well, and my point is just that if you have all these resources, I mean, you can say, well, how are we the smartest people in the room? Which really, I mean, I know I would pat myself on the back, but at the end of the day, like, they got to have smarter people in the room than us thinking about these things through. If they're investing the kind of money they're investing into these technologies, and how are they just so flat?
Yeah, but then you go back to we crashed, and I think there's you always have the back and the forth of how much do you discuss and continue to talk and plan and strategize before you actually just do, right? And I think there's like the two ways to think about it or to attack it. I feel like we've kind of done a hybrid. We've jumped in where we felt like we could tackle it, and then where we're like, whoa, okay, it's, we need to think about this some more. We've paused. We've been honest with the client, or whoever we're working with, and we worked through and mapped it out more. And then, okay, cool, something else comes along quick, boom, we jump on it. So it's this.
Yeah, but we're also limited by resources. I mean, at the end of the day, we're limited by resources, and we're limited. So I mean, we're trying to, we're innovating with limited resources. So it's like, if you had resources at your disposal, to the tune of millions and millions of dollars, if you're going to make this like a significant investment in it, why wouldn't you go and do something that makes? But it's a strategy thing. It's not. It's a strategy thing, not an application thing, right? It's the idea is like, you're just missing the mark. Like, your idea is bad. It's not a good one. Like, it's not enough to move the needle.
But we're nimble, I guess, is kind of what I'm saying too. So we can do that. Whereas a lot of these big companies, I mean, they probably have a lot of influencers, a lot of decision makers, different ideas on how to attack it, because it is a brand new world,
I think the simplest answer would have to be that we're the smartest people in the room.
I agree.
Well, that's the one thing I really found fascinating in my research, is that I'm trying to really look and see how people are using these things, and whether they're seeing the bigger picture, or if it's just very ground level tactical in terms of like, oh, this is how you use NFTs, so let's get in. I mean, it's like, it just feels like, it's like, man, it's kind of disappointing that they're not thinking bigger. Yeah. Right? That it's like, okay, and that's what feeds into this idea of it's just a collectible cash grab kind of mentality, which is like, great, okay, so you're doing that. Okay, that's like entry level 101 stuff, right? Versus trying to really innovate and say, how am I going to make sense of this in the future? What's the best purpose of this? And maybe it's a proof of concept thing. Okay, I'll give them that and say, maybe as you said, they just want to get going on something. And it's not a bad idea. I'm not saying it's a bad idea in terms of it's another way to in essence, sell your inventory twice.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's a whole different channel for it. So fine, okay, but that's also not the extent of what you can use this technology for. It's kind of the basic use of this technology. So it's just kind of, I don't know. It seems simplistic. I was a little bit surprised by that.
To kind of segue into the next one was Instagram, and they're bringing on NFTs. I guess when I first heard Instagram was kind of getting into the NFT game, I thought it was the same thing though. I thought it was going to be a little bit more earth shattering, and really it's not.
It's just like saying you can post an NFT.
Yeah, you can.
And they'll put some sort of.
It's like
marker.
Yeah, exactly. And there'll be some sort of technology or security, so like built in,
just like a PFP on Twitter.
Yeah, like a shimmer or something like that, which is just not a very
like
dynamic idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you create a different tier or a different like you have or it's
or
for
be able to mint your
posts, right?
Yeah.
Posts, yeah.
Your memes. Yeah. The
memes.
meme makers can.
See, I mean, we are the smartest people in the room. We figured that one out in 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, maybe they're thinking these. Maybe there is a brain trust somewhere that's thinking deeper on these things. But
yeah, well,
you should listen to market. But
you should listen to the Joseph Jaffe episode of NFT 365. He's off the charts, man. He's got some really cool stuff going. He's got this YouTube show called Joseph Jaffe is Not Famous, and he's just it's just a talk show pretty much. He brings people on and lets them talk about all kinds of stuff, but he's like he's sold out his NFT collection for his time, so he pretty much sold out all his time. But all these clients that have bought this time, he's also given them the ability to create NFTs and sell his content, so they can kind of reteach his stuff and then sell it.
So they own the rights to that time that they bought.
Yeah, and so he just kind of is getting this started, but then all of his minions are gonna pretty much keep it going for him. But you should listen to that episode. He talks about some far out stuff, and he's been working on stuff like this since like 2010, but very, very interesting. Joseph Jaffe. What other articles did we find this week?
Well, there was just some other interesting stuff in terms of what's that, Zach?
I think we got the pretty big ones. I mean, one we should just go into briefly is the Kellogg. They're
kind of more of a branding thing that I just stumbled across that I thought was kind of interesting, and how they're working to kind of repackage their brands, because they have Special K and Kellogg's brand. They were just looking at ways to repackage their. I don't know if you can share your screen, Zach, and show it. Just pull that up. There's some graphics in there that might be interesting for people to see, and you can kind of see how they're taking the brand just to kind of clean it up and make it a little bit more modern, and just shows you that there's a lot that goes into that upgrading process, and what you can see out of it is you can see if you scroll down, they have some side by sides that are kind of interesting there, and you can imagine like kind of how they show the actual product on the packaging. This doing this idea of using the big branding, the big Kellogg's across the top, which is kind of cool. If you continue to scroll down, there's some other cool stuff in there.
I didn't see what
like right here. See, these are the side by side. So those are the old ones versus the new ones, right? You can kind of see how they come across if you zoom in on one.
What are they? What's their thought process in this? I didn't read. I missed that part.
I think it was just to to create more of a cohesive branding, right? Because there was a lot of, it was almost like micro branded. So each sub brand had the focus was on that, and it was more distinct. This is to kind of sell Kellogg's as a whole and really push the big brand forward, as opposed to all the the kind of the individual brands,
right?
Which seems simpler than it sounds, but when you're talking about all these different SKUs in terms of product, and then branding and flavors and all that stuff, it can kind of get a little crazy. But I thought this was an interesting new take on it. I think these are being launched globally. I don't think they're North American yet. Or
yeah, it was in UK, I think.
Yeah, usually they're a little more progressive in their branding packaging approaches than the US. But
let me ask you this, Eric. At what point, as you being the branding design expert, right? At what point does, when do they go, hey, we need a new brand, we need new packaging?
I think if you're losing, if you're not cutting through the clutter, if you're losing kind of market share, or you're losing your sales are dipping. It's just a way of saying, look, and then obviously every so often you got to shake the tree a little bit, and there are whole departments that kind of focus on that stuff, but they have the micro data that they kind of say, okay, well, you know what, these products are performing worse against their competitors. Why is that? And then is this something that, we know it's not the product because taste tests show that everyone likes this, this, and this. So just like we would do, you kind of do a data inspection and say, okay, where's the problem? So I'm sure a lot of them are saying, look, we just need, it's just like, updating ads on, in digital marketing, whatever. It's like anything fresh, creative, really, this is what this is, right? This is just another way to kind of get people to look at your product again, and take a look. And, and you can see if you can zoom in, I don't know if you can zoom in or double click on one of those photos, it'll probably blow it up maybe. So we can get a better look at it. Yeah, there you go. You kind of see from the left side to the right side there, just like this Nutri-Grain one, and the up, let's say the second from the left in the top row there, compared to the one in the green on the right there. That's kind of
that's a pretty drastic change.
Yeah, right. I mean, you see the Kellogg's is much larger across the top. It's the Nutri-Grain, but see how they're different. See how they kind of were both. They were not. There was no balance. Right now we're saying, okay, all Kellogg's has this huge Kellogg across the top, which is automatically, kind of gives you that brand affinity and kind of, reliability there. Special K, the same thing, right? It's just an idea of showing the bar itself. This is what you would see, right? And you see the inside of the bar, the packaging of the bar. It's more visual representation.
I think it's cool how they have the K kind of overlapping the bar.
Yeah, right. Just, it's neat. They did a good job. It's cleaner, right?
Eric, can I ask you why brown here, Eric? Why brown?
Why brown? I don't know what the product is. It's chocolate.
It's chocolate.
So right, that's fine, right? Maybe it makes sense, right? Versus the strawberry, which is, a little more bolder. But overall, I'd say they did a good job. I think it's interesting. Certainly is cleaner. So like anything, and also like anything, it's trends, right? Trends dictate design. So after a while, 5 years, 10 years, something like that. I mean, eventually it gets stale. Just like anything, you got to refresh it, right? So
I would not buy this, but I would buy
that. Well, I don't. The Special K ones weren't that bad to begin with, but the other ones I think were a little bit sad.
I don't know. You can't. Has anybody tried the Kellogg's Frosties?
The Frosties? I don't know. They look good. I think I would try it.
What is this underneath here? I'm sure it's sugar free.
Oh, it's like a Rice Krispie treat, but it's with frosted flake bits. How can you beat that?
Probably.
Nutri-Grain bars are good too. So
yeah.
But yeah, anyways, it's just interesting that there, it was a complete. It was what I found fascinating about this was that it was across all lines, right? It was more of a holding company branding change as opposed to a product branding change. It was very drastic, right? It was like, look, we're not just going to change Frosted Flakes. We're going to change the whole holding company's branding, really. And again, create, I think it was the idea to say, like, look, we need to make sure that Kellogg's is front and center, not just these sub brands. It's got to be about our, as a company, product being, larger. It'd be like, what's another, if it were like a Heinz or like a Campbell's or even Coca-Cola, saying like every can was like Coca-Cola, and then it was like whatever their sub brand was underneath it, right? So you like Coke owned all these companies, right? So that's kind of the direction that they're approaching, which I think they feel like Kellogg's itself has got really, really good brand value, and that will help kind of lift some of maybe the sagging sales brands potentially. So very interesting. To see one at that scale.
I'm curious. I haven't paid attention to the cereal brands or to the food brands lately, but I bet you they had quite the numbers in 2020. And then has it kind of come back to pre-pandemic levels? Is it worse? Are they having supply chain issues, and then therefore I saw something where they're literally always fighting for shelf space. We get that, but is that because I think they said they did a rebrand in 2019 even. It's not that long ago.
Mhm.
So pretty,
And maybe it didn't stick. It probably didn't move the needle enough, and they're like, or it could have performed worse. I mean, I don't know the data on that just yet, but it just, I was looking at it from a sheer artwork perspective and kind of the change in that, which I thought was pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I mean, those are the things we kind of look at, and kind of that's. I always like this kind of see what's new and what's happening, and just what designers are doing, and it's always interesting to see what's happening overseas, because I think they have a little bit. People kind of always think that America and because we're big businesses here, that the design and kind of the marketing for product and consumer products is done best here, but design overseas, European, Asian, even Middle Eastern, there's some, in South American too is actually really interesting stuff. And they all kind of have their own styles, to a certain extent as well. But I'm always fascinated by checking out, trends that are happening, because it is very, design's trendy, right? I mean, it's,
look at the exotic snacks industry. I mean, I feel like their branding, their packaging is always like crazy.
Yeah. Well, and culturally, there's different taste, right? Certain cultures prefer certain colors and certain styles and certain, levels of visual activity. Craziness, for lack of a better word, right? And like things are more outlandish, and some are like more clean and simple. And of course, products dictate, design style as well, right? Everything's got to have, brand. It's got to be relative to the brand. So interesting stuff
for sure. How about we transition into a little Seth Green?
So these are we try to kind of steer a little bit, and not just always focus on NFTs and crypto, but it seems like that's the most fascinating stuff right now, in terms of, unless we can find stuff on our other industries, but everything else.
Well, it's either crypto or Johnny Depp.
Yeah, right. Well, okay, so you're going to.
I can turn any conversation into a crypto conversation.
A crypto conversation now.
Yeah.
True.
Well, I think we're going into this.
We're going into summer months, right? And so, there's certain cyclical patterns in terms of sales for our traditional businesses and stuff. So it's kind of, there's not a lot to really report there. I don't think there's a lot of super dynamic, interesting things happening there. But certainly, NFT space is the most buzzwordable or fascinating stuff. This is what was very interesting, which is that, so here's Seth Green. He had invested in all these NFTs, and he bought these Bored Apes, and I don't know what are the other ones that he had on, but he was developing a show around the character from one of his NFTs, right? And by him purchasing the NFT, it granted him the right to the copyright on that creature. So that's where we're using the creature. They developed this whole television show, and he got fished, and he ended up getting it stolen, right, through a phishing scam, and then it was resold to someone else. So now he's trying to get everything he invested in this show and everything. I mean, it was like done with production, I believe. So he's having a hard time trying to get his hands back on it, because he can't proceed with the show in the current state without ownership of that NFT. So, this is just fascinating how, in terms of rights, we always talk about, rights and what rights you have with that NFT and what you can do with it and stuff. So this is very interesting.
What's your take on that, Brad? Because obviously, I mean, Cracked, which is this Cracked magazine?
Yeah, it's a website. I've heard.
So, I mean, they rip it. I mean, they crush it, right?
And I've heard about it in different from different sources as well, right?
Yeah, and I think the battle, the constant back and forth of how do you start to regulate an industry that was built on not being regulated, right? Decentralized. Because everybody wants it decentralized until your Bored Ape gets ripped from you, right?
Right.
So is there a fine line?
Well, I think it's education. Seth should have put it into a cold wallet or hardware wallet and had it. If he knew he was going to create a TV show from it, like secure that thing. So
Well,
I think,
and Brad, perfect example. I mean, this goes into best practices, right? And I know that you've already thought of several best practices. You know, that again, is anything ironclad safe? No, but you know, what are some of the things that you know you've come across as far as just taking the next steps to protect your assets, your NFTs, your crypto?
well, I mean, for one, just putting it into a wallet that nobody even has the address to, a hardware wallet that you can put into a safe. And I don't have a lot of best practice, but I know what we're trying to do with some of the projects that we're going to launch is a lot of education leading up to the minting, because we're going to be targeting audiences that have no idea what NFTs are. So we don't want them to run into something like this. But we'll figure out best practices as we go. Unfortunately, some of the lessons might be the hard way.
Yeah.
That's how we learn to be good digital citizens in Web 2, and now we're going to have to go through a whole new educational learning curve with Web 3.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Seth is right in the public's eye. Fanzo too. He had stuff ripped off from his wallet. He lost a bunch of stuff. And
well, and I feel like those guys are the one. I mean, he brought up some really good points. He's like with OpenSea, why don't they have a different background? Based on what transaction or what sort of movement you're making with your wallet, right? Like if I'm giving literally ownership over of my wallet to another, user, there should be a red background or something, right? And I don't know how OpenSea, just again, it's just a behavior change that possibly these marketplaces can start to implement a little bit. But even then, who's to say, how can that could probably get ripped, So you clone something, if you if you're good enough at it as a hacker, you can make a red background or a green background. People think it's red, or people think it's,
Well, I just think the basic point of the story is that it's like, look, if you're going to invest that much in these things, like, that it's still a bit of a Wild West happening right now. And I think that you have to be a little bit, I think, cautious if you don't know what you're doing. And I'm not saying he didn't know what he was doing. Maybe he didn't and did everything right and it still happened. And that's possible, right? Because of that, the fact that it's like, it is so kind of crazy, right? But there certainly is, you want to make sure that if you're going to go to the extent and develop a show around, I was more fascinated in the idea of developing a show around the IP. Like, that's what I thought was more interesting than the fact that it got stolen, was that it's like, wow, here's, he bought the ape or whatever it is. And he's like, he owns the copyright to that character in essence, right? So now he can create a show around that character that only he owns, right? So in essence, he was trying to develop something that would elevate the rarity or the value of his NFT. He's in a position to be able to do that. That's the fascinating thing, which is that, look, you can artificially increase the value of that NFT. If he's all of a sudden, a Homer Simpson, right? What if I bought Homer Simpson, an NFT Homer Simpson before The Simpsons was ever launched, right? And now I have the only Homer Simpson NFT, right? Which probably exists, and someone probably has it. Hopefully Matt Groening is listening and actually like mints it and says it's my NFT, and I have the one Homer Simpson, right? But there's value there, right? If it started as nothing and all of a sudden, so he's probably like, hey, I just bought this cool thing. What if we develop a show around it?
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, if it becomes popular, which I have no doubt that it would do pretty well. I mean, there's so many, existing characters that probably would be more expensive. It's probably the cheapest way to develop the value on a character and an IP versus, unless you already owned it, right? So,
yeah. Well, and just kind of thinking this too, a lot of people go, our society is so used to the right here, right now, payoff, the immediate, Mickey Mouse drawing. That took years, right, for that to blow up, right?
Which is it's going through that issue with copyright on that right now too. That's the it's going to be public domain, or it's supposed to be public domain. The Steamboat.
You go to Bart Simpson, but none of these were like overnight successes.
Yeah, well, you build brand value, right? The IP value gets increased over time. So
right, so
he's starting to show.
You got to be thinking long term, not like, oh, I'm gonna be Banksy, and I'm gonna, even Banksy. Or was it Banksy or Beeple? Beeple did his 5,000 everydayers or whatever, and sold it for. Dude, I mean, that still took him years to build that up, right? So I think there's this culture of us just immediately that immediate gratification, and when again the real technology, the real benefit is when you NFT your drawing. And it takes 10 years or 20 years.
Again, it's just a fascinating. It's a good kudos to them for trying to think that through and be like, hey, because it's the first one to do it. So again, it's like we talk about cutting edge and like thinking deeper, right, than just minting an NFT. Like at least he was thinking, hey, I bought this. I didn't come up with the idea of the NFT, but I'm going to take the character I got, and create a show around it and develop the value there. Right? Yeah. And create a character. I mean, in essence, he's creating the personality of it. He just has the visual. There's no story there. There's no, it's just, hey, I saw this cool picture of, I don't know if this is, they had showed what they looked like. It was like, I don't know which one he was basing the show off of, but it was like, there were 4 that got hacked, and one of which that got stolen from him, and then one of which he was going to use. But again, just very what a fascinating use of taking it to the next level, so to speak. So anyways, we have to beat a dead horse in that, but I just thought that was interesting. The next thing that I thought was very fascinating, which we talked about a little bit yesterday, was hotels.
Yeah, we were going back
using NFTs to reserve your room.
Yeah,
and the idea that once you buy that room license, in essence, kind of like seat licenses, Brad, that we were talking about, with that Cuban was talking about for his, you license the room for the night, and it's yours. And if you need to cancel, tough shit, you have to resell it. You have to resell that license. In essence, we're not going to. The hotel company is not going to reimburse you or refund you. You have to sell it on their exchange. Now, one of two things. One, it gives you flexibility to do whatever you want with it, right? So maybe you get more money for it, maybe you get less money for it, but that's on you. It's a very unique way and dramatic way of applying the technology to hotels. Might just be curious about your, Zach and I talked about it, but I'm curious about your take on that, Brad, in terms of, you think that's, a good use of that, or you think it should be a different type of application, I guess. I know how I feel about it, and I'll say in a little bit, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
I don't think it works quite yet. I don't think it's. It's.
What's your
it would make sense around memberships, but I just don't see how the logistics of it can work with a nightly rental.
Well,
it's just too small of a window.
Hey, Brad, you worked in the hospitality industry, right?
I sure did. Yeah.
Sell out every night, Steamboat Springs.
Yeah, right. I couldn't imagine dealing with that. You got to have a good way of scanning the tickets at check-in. I mean, I don't know. It could work maybe down the road, but I don't. It seems like you're kind of pigeonholed in.
Well, I think the argument is that it's like, look, we can perhaps sell out faster, right? Because we're saying that you're buying the room, you control the rights to that room, and then you have the opportunity to make money on it, right? And then the ironic thing is that what they don't mention is that the hotels will make money on the transaction as well. So they actually would benefit technically if you did flip it, right? But here's the catch, which is what I want to kind of discuss on the team, because these are the bigger questions, which were one of two things. one of which is scalpers, right? What's to stop people from buying up, say, all the rooms for Memorial Day weekend, right? And then so now this hotel is sold out to scalpers, kind of like StubHub or any of those type of companies, where all of a sudden now it's like, well, geez, the rack rate was $200, but because now hotels do this to a certain extent, right? They the rate, room rate fluctuations change, but this would be a way to artificially increase, kind of make money off it or poach to a certain extent, right? Which is kind of, a little bit. I think that's where the problem's going to lie. Because I'd be pissed if I was a regular person who was like, I just want to go stay at this home. Something that's like, well, I can't stay now. I can't say that right now. I don't know that the hotel. I mean, I guess the hotel's happy because they sold the original rate anyways, but it's bad for branding. I think PR wise and publicity wise, you'd get a bad rap if it was like, dude, I can't get a hotel. People would either pay because they wanted to, and they pay that added cost, and the scalpers would get their money, or they'd be pissed and it would reflect poorly on the hotel.
Well, so let me throw this at you. What if Marriott comes to us and goes, we're doing NFTs. How do we do it and not look like idiots, not look fools? How do we roll it out? And again, we know that 99% of we want to be there in 10 years. How do we start? Where do we start? What would you guys do? And we're going to pay you $100 million.
We'd start with the membership program.
Yeah, again, I always go back to the membership program. It's like I don't think the concept is a bad one. I think tying it to like using it again, that basically in terms of an NFT like license for the room, or you have to put major restrictions in place to a certain extent, right, in the contract, where it's like you can't, you can control, I guess you can only flip it for your exact money again, right? Or you know what I mean? Like you can't.
Or does the hotel buy it back from you within 24 hours? You can't flip it?
I think they're trying to remove themselves from the process. They're trying to get those rooms off the books. But
but if you could, right? If you're the hotel, now you're probably recouping because you're still getting some of the royalty, right? Of the
but if you're buying, but you'd be selling it since you sell to someone, and then you'd be buying it back from them. So you'd actually be.
But at my point is, you would still make a royalty on that front end, wouldn't you? Even at 5% or 10%, right? Because they're going to buy it from you. I mean, I guess that you'd have to work through that muck a little bit.
Yeah. It's more about the second transaction.
It'd be too hard to figure out the nightly rental because you'd be spending so much money minting these tickets. It's like Cuban; he can't sustain this forever the way he's doing his tickets at the arena, spending $20,000 on each game to mint everything, and then he burns them all after. Like that's just a lot of resources, right, and time.
I think it's so you have a 100 key room, 100 key hotel, 100 keys per night, right? So how do you or is it per reservation?
Yeah, and so it's got to go back.
Which maybe buys you a little bit per room.
It's got to go back to that membership program, and what makes it different from current membership programs when you use NFTs is that you can create the DAO. And so you can have all these people that stay at the Marriott now that are NFT holders and they're members in the program earning Marriott coin that they can redeem for hotel rooms, but they also get special benefits holding that Marriott NFT that makes them feel like they're almost an owner of Marriott. It's that community of Marriott travelers, and they can, then you get them to be more involved in decision making with the brand. And so then that whole piece of community and bringing on a whole new community and aspect of your business through these NFTs is kind of how I'd approach it.
And Brad, what if the DAO owns, let's say you have 10 penthouses, right? Or whatever, those high presidential suites, right? And what if the DAO has ownership in each of those presidential suites, as long as they own the NFT?
Totally.
Right?
I mean,
now every transaction, that NFT holder is getting revenue now back from Marriott. So of course now they're a huge fan of Marriott. They want We want those rooms to be sold out, and maybe that's kind of how that could then filter down into the rest of the rooms where, you know, maybe that's the angle that they'll start to take with it. Maybe that's where they're going. Because then that's kind of cool. Now Marriott's still going to own X amount, whatever they want of it, but the DAO would also have ownership in those rooms or in that hotel, and you could own a piece of the Marriott hotel in Coronado, in San Diego. And now I'm keeping it because now I get a rip every time those rooms are rented.
That's like that's more akin to like a timeshare or vacation ownership, which actually is pretty regulated. So there's going to be a lot of legal.
You're a timeshare. You're a timeshare.
I spent a lot of years working in timeshare marketing, and it's a very complicated process, and it is. So I think that there would be limitations, but you're right. That's what you're kind of talking about, Rich. Like that, the kind of fractional ownership to a certain extent of those rooms, where it's like I'm buying into. And maybe you tie it to it. Maybe that's, again, there's another technology that probably could serve maybe a better use for it, versus a deed, right? Because that's kind of how they do it through deeds and stuff like now, right? In essence, you're buying a piece of the property. Mm-hmm. So if it's that might be a more useful model for those type of industries where you are buying a portion of something and they could track then that room to your, to your
Airbnb, right? Airbnb. What if you have a home on Airbnb and then you want to now liquidate it, and you create an NFT for it? Now you have 100 owners of the home, and I know this has been talked about. But,
yeah.
I'm curious on to your point, Eric. What are the regulations on that?
I think for a traditional hotel, it's more about the membership program. Again, just like we can go back to that. I think membership program, because you have so much more control. It's like it expands the utility of that NFT, right? It allows you to do more things with it, because you then have the flexibility with if you have a token or some sort of tokenomics associated with that NFT, to allow them to gain points, to use those points. And it's all tracked to that own thing, right? And then you can transfer that owned membership to someone else, right? Right now, you can't sell your Marriott Bonvi membership to someone else. So all the points that you've earned in your lifetime, you either use or you lose, right? You can't transfer that. As far as I know, you can't transfer them to like me. You know what I mean? I can't pick up your.
Your Marriott has discounts to other partners and stuff like that too, right? I mean, if you use your Marriott
within in network. So imagine you're saying, I'm going to buy my Marriott rewards card now. I've earned 1 million points, but I'm either moving or I'm leaving, or I don't. I became agoraphobic and I'm not leaving the house anymore. Well, I can sell that card to Zach, who's like just immediately after day one wants to use those points and or consolidate them or whatever,
or airdrop it.
Yeah, I mean, and or pick up the points somehow, sell off my points or something like that. So I think there's a lot more flexibility when you get into the idea of a membership program versus just room by room.
Yeah.
But I also am fascinated by that. That's an interesting thing about how with ownership, vacation ownership and stuff like that, like how you could use that as a tool to for the transaction instead of a more traditional model.
Yeah.
And is that a, as weird as it sounds, is that the modern timeshare for millennials or younger kids that are more likely to buy into that system than they would a traditional
kind of built for it, right? And what is it? Is it Nomads NFT? What is it? Is it Nomads?
That's interesting.
No.
So if I were, again, go back to you were talking about if Marriott came with $100 million to develop, I look at the opposite. I would take my wares on the road and say, hey, timeshare company A, timeshare company B, let's use an NFT system to figure out the legal ramification. I mean, really, there got to be none, because it's a different beast to create a new beast.
Digital nomads.
Is that what they're doing?
Yeah. So I think now the website is interesting. I hope I'm understanding. I apologize if I'm not. This looks way more. I think this is the same one though. Um, yeah, ownership of a digital nomad NFT comes with real world utility.
Premium courses and guides, free lodging in select locations around the world, and more. So similar to this, right? This would be the way I would apply it, I think. And you would say, well, you buy the NFT gives you rights to our system of properties.
Yep.
And the question is, how do you? The difference is, you in a timeshare, technically, I guess you're tied to, you're buying access to the properties at the same principle. It really honestly, it's the same principle, because the value increase. The assumption is that the cost of vacations increases over time. So you're buying today's value and getting future vacations at today's value, right?
Yep.
So what's the same thing with an NFT? You're buying the NFT today, assuming that the value of the NFT increases. It might be a much more fluid transaction in terms of trying to offload it.
Yeah.
And it might be more appealing to a younger audience, a la digital nomad, right? But
Yeah.
they probably just don't have the network in place yet to really make it like mainstream. But this would be something, if I was a timeshare company, I would be looking at and saying, oh, okay, can we either get in with these people or create our own?
Yeah. I mean, and I think you could end up, you'll see, I think we will see more of this, to your point here. Like Disney Vacation.
But again, this is a membership. I mean, at Disney Vacations, I was thinking Disney the exact same thing, because they're really early adopters for technology in terms of apps, and the app, you can do everything from your phone. You can open your door with the phone.
Yep.
You can buy stuff, right? It all gets tracked straight to your phone, right? They've even pulled away from the magic bands, and the phone really serves as your magic band now. So if they could do it a way where it was even, for vacation, bring this into that for the Disney Vacations Club, which is timeshare. The sky's the limit, really. Honestly, that's the thing. It's like, you can do anything. I guess it's an issue of, Brad, my question for you is, the challenge comes in the contract, right? In terms of, you have to have all your ideas fleshed out in concrete before you produce the contract. So you can't kind of iterate on the fly. Am I correct in assuming that?
It just depends, and that's what I'm trying to learn too. I was almost, I was thinking today, like, down the road, when I will be able to differentiate between, what needs to be done now and what needs to be done later. I'm not quite sure right now. I have to keep going back to the smart contract developers and talking with them. I imagine once we get a little more versed in this stuff, it'll be second nature to kind of call that stuff out. But right now, like with the staking, and awarding NFT holders with coin for staking their NFTs for 30 days. So that's something that we need to go back and adjust the smart contract for. We were going to deploy today, and after talking to the developers, he needed to go make some adjustments in order to make that happen. So, and we were going to deploy today, and so that was something that I'm glad I brought up. But I don't, with these first few projects, I'm going to have to learn that.
Well, I guess my point is just like, is it, then do you get stuck in like analysis paralysis, right? Because you're always like, I have to think of every possible situation and thing that could happen before I deploy, because if I deploy and I realized, oh, wait, we didn't think about this one thing, it's not as easy. You can't just go back in and fix it. And I guess that's maybe what is causing that kind of stammering in terms of getting things completed or developed. It's like, you really have to spend a lot of time thinking all the possibilities out before you implement.
Right. Yeah. Well, it could be something as simple as like airdropping. Like, oh shoot, we didn't, specify that in the contract that we want to be able to airdrop these NFTs, and then something like that, you're kind of screwed. I don't know that you can go back and change that. So yeah, it's whatever you can plan out, however you can plan, the better. But with what we're trying to do innovation-wise, it's we might have to learn the hard way there. And I don't know if there's been projects that have deployed contracts and then just redeployed a new contract then, and then kind of pointed everything back towards that new contract. I'm not sure kind of how people are sorting that out, but you have to deal with it somehow. So that's, I guess, called bleeding edge technology.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm Brad, you will find a way.
Yeah,
well, I think that's the thing. There's always a way to figure it out, but it's just that's the thing. It's like, at what point do you have to commit on certain things and say, this for this project, this is as far as we can take it, and then stop, right? And you implement and say, okay, the next project, then we do something different. I mean, we're kind of, everything moves in real time, so it's kind of like, okay, when do you pull the plug? Almost like, when's the project done? Right? When are you saying, when is enough, or do you keep on pushing to that next great kind of thought or invention, right? And then you get stuck again in an endless loop of iteration. Fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
Well, I think the one piece we didn't totally get into, this I thought was interesting.
Well, this I was just reading, So here's another mind-blowing kind of earth-shattering thing, which is the idea of soul-bound tokens, which is an interesting way of looking at, I think, how our digital data and our authenticity gets tracked and tagged to us. The idea is that it's going to be life events and stuff that you can get kind of awarded to you and controlled in your own wallet. So your certifications, documentations, degrees, experiences all get tagged to you. So you have then, in essence, your digital resume is something that you control. Where it's like, your university will send you the NFT of your degree, and you'll have that in your wallet that is guaranteed. It's like authentic, right? It's like authenticity, right? You can't be
non-transferable.
Non-transferable, can't be faked. If you earn accreditation from somewhere,
it can be revoked, though, they said.
By the
yourself,
authorizer.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought
or
was
the receiver, or you could revoke it too and say, I don't want that in my SBT.
Well, it's interesting because it's how they attribute it to, they attribute it to kind of LinkedIn, right? Where you're getting recommendations and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar to where you would carry those recommendations or the degrees or the accomplishments with you in your wallet.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, just a way for you to, it's in essence to eliminate third-party institutions from having to verify that data, right? It's like instant verification to a certain extent.
I love Randall. Randall's just
right there. Yeah, he's reading it, or he's on the point there.
Well, I hope you're having a better tonight.
That's again. It's like, again, this is the guy. This is from the founder of Ethereum, so it's like he's clearly thinking. They said it's ready to implement like this year. Like,
does anyone have an issue with the name Soul Wallet and
Soulbound? Well, I think they said it takes it from World of Warcraft or something.
Yeah, World of Warcraft. Which I remember when World of Warcraft came out. I must have been, I would think I was 17 or 18 years old when I first played it. So it probably came out even before then.
Yeah, I'm not a gamer, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember any of this stuff. Well, I was not I can't consider myself a gamer either. But I mean, this just goes to show that's been going on for a while. So
they're saying it makes it
close to all you guys, close to all you gamers out there.
Right?
Well
Yeah,
done.
Well, they're saying that it makes it harder for people like to impersonate you and kind of, and an easier way for prospective employers to verify your work history, job history, all these things. So it's just, I mean, again, it's really, how do you use, the kind of the blockchain technology, which is really just a digital verification of things, right? And code, and like having code to authenticate and to give a finite trackable number to all these different things. And once you have that, or math equation, I guess is the best way to describe it, right?
Yeah, I see a lot of people jumping on board, like government agencies and anyone that has to issue an ID.
Yeah.
Like your driver, what about a driver's license? I guess the issue is more about, as it becomes more ubiquitous, I think those are the things that will, whether that's 20 years from now, right, or something. With the government, it probably will be 20 years from now. But, if, before your driver's license is an NFT. The issue, I guess, is it's more about the energy consumption, right? And will there be as more people produce these things, does the environmental impact start to the pendulum swing back the other way, right? And people will be like, look, we can't do it. Like, and does it get backlash because of the amount of energy and kind of, the consumption to produce all this computing power? Or is that just, again, inevitable? Is it like, dude, that's the future of the world? Like, with online sales and all, that's the reason why they're building data centers every 5 feet.
Yeah.
It's just more and more computers running servers, consuming energy, getting their own. We're having a big thing here where they've been fighting the power company for bringing a dedicated cable for an Amazon web services data center. They want it's like their own extension cord. They say it's like they're just plugging in and dragging it right. There's to the tune of I don't know how much money and how much destruction to not just emissions, but like the landscape, right? They're gonna destroy just to get them. Everyone thinks, okay, gas fees, great, it's the CO2, but what about getting the facilities built that can power the compute, to house and power the computers, the data centers, and all that, and all that stuff. So I think at a certain point, when people wake up to that part of it, there might be some backlash. Now everyone sees it as just it's in the computer, like it's all fake. It's like I don't think a lot. I think that's if I were a naysayer, if I was someone that was trying to fight against it, I would be making those arguments versus the scamminess of it, right?
Yeah, I'd like to see some comparisons of the footprint of Bitcoin versus the footprint of like the coal industry or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it comparable at all, or is it not even close?
Yeah, well, it's a different thing. You could talk about like those are life-sustaining needs versus purely computing transactional, energy use, So I don't know. I'm not going to argue either way. I'm just curious. I like to throw things out there and see what sticks.
Maybe this is a topic for next week. Maybe we got to do a little research because I think I totally agree. What it is, in other words, was there people that hate crypto and Bitcoin putting out this massive campaign, and I don't know the answer to this, but against blockchain, but to your point, Brad, is it literally like a fraction of what it is versus the coal industry? But they're getting us to focus on this little thing down here.
Right. Is it? Yeah. Are we?
And really, the problem is all this, but they're getting, but you have maybe big banks or governments are like, yeah, but it's not safe, or big oil, even, who knows, right? Like, don't look at this over here, look at this down here. I don't know. That's a really good question.
Who knows?
Yeah. Seems like we've kind of.
It's an environmental question.
Yeah. Maybe we need an environmental scientist.
There you go. That'll be our next interview. Because because to me, it's like that's when you're going to hit. That's when you'll hit real tangible backlash. if it gets to the point where it becomes an environmental thing where it's like you can't consume the energy, only because I'm saying because clearly the production is going up, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't care how much it uses now is really irrelevant. It's more a point of we can see it's growing, right? So if it's growing, eventually you start to at the speed of, if we're talking 300,000 people have NFTs or some like some tiny number.
It's probably around 360 to 400,000, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Compared to 300, how many 7 billion people on the planet. So if it kicks off, I mean, if it does become, as we all the things we're talking about, right? If it becomes more mainstream, where everything and all these different agencies are using everything, all this computing power, right? It's going to get out of hand. Even if it is less than, eventually it will overtake coal. That's all I'm saying, right? If it increases to that extent. So I'd be curious to see how that, what that means.
Yeah.
And is that eventually you hit? But then again,
maybe we just put a huge data center on Uranus.
Right. The moon.
What's interesting? I'm just Googling. Like, is there a blockchain that's strictly, sustainable energy or like renewable energy? Like, is there a solar powered blockchain, and they only allow people to mine that are on solar power off grid, servers?
Green technologies or whatever.
I mean, that would be kind of cool, huh?
Yeah.
Then, you cannot mine on the blockchain unless you're totally off grid.
Yeah, and you grow your own tomatoes.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Okay, so here we go. So I'm gonna poke holes and dig into that one a little bit, because it's like, yeah, exactly. But then at what point is there even one company on the planet that is completely is authentically sustainable, right? Like Tesla's great. I think, hey, awesome. You elevated electric cars, but how much oil and coal and traditional fossil fuels go into either making the product.
Oh, dude, 99% of it. You would not have a Tesla vehicle.
Yeah, or to just fueling it, right? I mean, the electricity comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
So my point is, it's just like you may think, oh, okay, great, authentically, it's not a clean product. So it's like, if you really want to look at it in those terms, so that's why it's.
Well, and I'm no scientist here, but isn't it where nuclear is technically the cleanest? Am I wrong there? Other than hydro. But even hydro.
Well, I think they probably use nuclear waste and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure someone's much smarter about it than we are. But we're getting out of our depth here. But yeah, you'd think
we are.
But the point is, like, you could. What Brad was saying is like, yeah, if it's a blockchain that's net neutral. But now you're talking, how far down the rabbit hole do you go, and what's like legitimate? Like the computers are made somewhere. How are the computers made? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What minerals are you getting for the computers? Where are they made?
Energy
or
environmental scientists out there, we'd love to have you on.
And is it just like, is it just fruitless? But I hate to say it's fruitless, because then it's like that's a very naysayer kind of approach. But
well, the other thing too is ETH is moving out of the proof of work to proof of stake,
which uses
99%. Well, what does that mean, right? 99%. You keep seeing reading 99% less energy. It's like 99% less of what?
Yeah. Well, I get it. Look, at the end of the day, I would say
less computing power.
Better is
99% less
always
computing
better, right?
power to verify the transactions.
And here's my thing too: is when are they doing that? Because it's the crypto world. The communication right now has kind of been struggling.
Yeah.
And so when is that happening? They say it's happening in summer, but when and how?
Well, and there was a lot of it just kind of anecdotal, the way that we talk about stuff too, right? It's like they're saying, well, yeah, we're getting to it. It's going to happen this summer. Okay, well, is it really going to happen, or is that just you're just saying it because you're wishing it happens?
And there's a lot of crypto people and NFTers that are kind of feeling the pain right now, right? So somebody's got to step up. One of these pioneers, one of these big, ETH or Bitcoin, and maybe they are, maybe we just haven't seen it, but just say, hey, it's happening here. These are the next changes. This is the roadmap for crypto.
Well, speaking of which, let's. I know we're running a long time, but I want to involve one step deeper, which is this crypto billionaire who says he's going to donate $1 billion in the midterm elections, in the 2024 elections. I'm sorry.
Why? My question
$1 billion. The most to date has been like a couple $100 million. He said that's a soft ceiling too, but he's like he wants to develop which is fine. But I think it's
why?
It's to buy pockets. Obviously, that's what it's for.
I know, but
admittedly, I think to push his own agenda. I think he's looking at trying to assumptions, of course, is that he's looking to control the discussion on cryptocurrency and the regulation on decentralized currencies and stuff like that. So he wants to get those people in his pocket for that. Let's hope it's more altruistic in terms of maybe pushing whatever his ideal agendas are. I don't know, but you have to look at who this guy is, and apparently he still lives with a roommate and drives a Corolla. So I think he said he wants to donate all his money like to charity. So and I think he's only like 20 some odd years old or something.
Yeah, he's 30. Yeah.
Okay, maybe he's older than that. I'm sorry. But I was just fascinated that I was kind of intrigued that is donating to that extreme amount compared to even like the Kochs or the Adelsons or the, those type of mega donors. But he's like way over them. I mean, Soros is still like, I think, 125 million.
Well, and again, I think it goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
He might be. Maybe he is worth. Maybe it is all money laundering.
Lives in the Ozarks. Yeah, I think so too. I never. Hey, no spoilers, please. Amanda and I still have to watch 3 episodes. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of you're kind of bringing in 2 different things. I'm all for it on.
But I'm saying that goes from the idea of how the money that's made in these industries is going to be used, and that's the first I really heard of it being kind of rematriculated into the political system, which is very interesting because it's like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess eventually they're going to try and lobby as well. I mean, in essence, it's a crypto lobby, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I'm sure there is one. I mean, there's enough money there. I'm sure there is one. Someone's got to be pushing for it now, and maybe maybe they're fighting against the banking lobby too. But
I think we should talk about that next week also, because it's an election year, right? I think there's and again, we can kind of leave politics out of it and just talk about it as objectively. What does it mean?
Well, this is the first cycle when I think you're going to see that kind of money come into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as I can tell. I mean, this is the first big one that I've really heard of, but if they're making a lot of money.
Well, and to your point, Eric, he's obviously pro crypto. Mm-hmm. So what happens to the banking industry, and do they feel like their now backs are against the wall? Mm-hmm. And is there going to be hit pieces on this guy? And I mean, wow, right? Let's get your popcorn.
Yeah.
Hey guys, guess what? Guess what time it is?
Is it that time? Is it time for memes of the week?
So we're boarding some new clients this week. We love boarding new clients. It's always fun. There's a lot of good stuff, but this is one of my favorite memes of all time.
Love that one. That's funny. Oh, Facebook.
Oh, good old Facebook. This one's pretty relevant. Well, you can't go wrong with Elon.
I love this one, yeah. He's already on to the next.
Is that kind of what's going on right now? Are people I don't know. I mean,
well, not people. So let's say you're seeing segmentation, right? Which is that it's like anything. It's the new thing, right? It's the new thing for younger technology, younger audiences. They're going to go with these more unique, cutting edge things, and all the olden folk are going to stick around with those. Facebook is already kind of like that. I mean, they all have different purposes now, I guess. Instagram, as you can see, they're trying to kind of struggle to keep themselves relevant, right?
Yeah, trying to jump into that NFT world.
Yeah.
Next one. This one, I mean, we just had the PGA Championship.
Yeah.
I didn't go and verify this.
This has nothing to do with anything, but it's still good.
But no, this is so. But then I heard on one of the Sports Center radio shows, they're like, no, this was legit. They had Will Brent literally followed him around and these were the stats.
Man, look at that beard. Like, that's gonna be Brad.
Who is that? Daily? Is that Daily?
John
Daily, man.
You can't tell.
Yeah, John. 21 cigs.
It's Santa Claus. It's Santa Claus on vacation.
Dude, your face would be so leathery after 21 cigars.
And you know what's crazy
Look at
about
his face. I believe it.
Hey, do you know what's crazy? Is John Rahm, who's number 2 in the world, did the exact same. He shot the exact same on like day 2 or day 3, whenever this happened.
Yeah,
Shot the exact same amount.
he went to Hooters. Exactly, he did. He did go to Hooters after this one.
I mean, golf is glorious. I freaking hate it because I suck.
You're not having enough cigs.
I am the worst golf player.
You gotta light up, have some more cigs and decokes, and you'll be good to go. Follow a man.
What an awesome! I mean, wow. I mean, is he an athlete?
He is. He's a professional athlete. He's not just an athlete. He's a professional athlete.
And what kind of whiskey does he drink?
Don't Diet Coke.
Oh, he's definitely
He's a bean
like
guy.
J.R. Weller.
Oh no, he's
Just
like
straight up
he's old
Jack
school.
Daniels.
Jack Daniels, or like some bean.
I kind of think he's a
big
Woodford guy.
Canadian
Seems like
Mist.
a beam
He
and
might be
Diet
like
Coke
a
guy.
Canadian Mist.
Let me ask you,
J and B.
Is it Jack and Coke? Is it Jack and Coke? Jack and
It
Diet
might
Coke.
be Jack and Diet, yeah.
No.
Because you gotta watch that. He's gotta watch that girlish figure.
Yeah.
John and Coke.
He's a cutty sock.
I went to New York. Did I tell you guys this? I went to New York City one weekend, and I was like, "Yeah, can I get a Jack and Diet Coke?" And she goes, "Oh, you mean a skinny bitch?" And I was like, yeah.
Like, yes, can you tell?
And of course,
Exactly.
we sleep with a bag that lays up on bar fours.
The golf memes.
I hope I didn't get him pregnant.
I love it.
Oh, that's good. Classic. I mean, you can't go without, this one's good.
Yes, right. So, okay, what are we gonna do when this trial finishes up? We're gonna run out of funny stuff.
We got to find another trial.
That's true, and there always will be another trial.
Yeah,
it's inevitable. That was funny. Love it.
That's just still unbelievable to me. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's unbelievable, but okay.
Yeah. All right, here we go. This one's great. Hey, YouTube, maybe don't put ads in videos. I don't have time to watch a Red Lobster ad when my grandmother's choking on
for first 8 minutes.
But I love the reply by YouTube. Sorry to hear about the trouble. YouTube Premium offers.
Yeah, like let's upsell them. That's like this is the best. This is the most. Yeah, this is the most relevant. Well, we can upsell you. You can pay for free service.
I feel like I'm gonna have to start doing some memes that include the comments because the comments are almost better.
The funniest part.
Actually better than the memes.
Honestly, that one is one of the most. That's brilliant because that's just like for our industry. It's like exactly like that's what I would tell them. Like, well, someone's saying they don't want to pay for ad. Okay, well, tell them, sell them, upsell them. Right?
We're gonna screw everything up.
I love it. We do. We're just terrible people.
Yeah. This one, I just had to. I laughed at this one. Photoshop request.
Did you see that thing? It was the thing I sent you with all the different. Was the side of that one?
Yes.
All the markup.
I almost brought that one up, but I was like,
that's a great link. Those are. I love watching these because it's like as someone who does Photoshop and has to do these things for people and like photo retouching and stuff.
Brad has no idea who this is.
He's like, that's Pitbull.
I mean,
Pitbull, Brad.
Yeah, I get it.
Get it? Yeah, get it. Oh, I
this
love
one
that.
I feel like is Eric. This one, I saw this one and it was Eric Pieracci.
Oh boy.
100%. This is Eric's Thursday nights with the boys.
I'm drinking no pale. Well, I don't know. I know what the first part maybe. I don't know what
It's
the
a
I
gift.
know things thing. It's a gift. It's right. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah,
That's what
that
I
is
do.
totally right.
Drinking, I know things. I know a lot. As I always joke, I say I don't know. I don't know a lot about a little. I know a little about a lot.
Yeah.
Just enough. I'm fun at parties. That's about it, I guess. I mean, I make
Here's a
trivia.
shout out to digital marketers everywhere. I wonder
What the heck is that?
percentage received this time.
Yodeling pickle. Oh, I love it. God bless Amazon. I want one now.
You know what? I'm surprised.
I'm going to
I was
look at
actually wondering if Brad was going to be like, "Hold on, I got one right over
Yeah, I
here."
got the yodeling pickle on my shelf right here. I love that.
Oh man.
Yodeling pickle. All right, 2 more left.
2 more. Oh my gosh.
This is a big memes week.
I feel special.
A client sent us this one.
I'm already into. I'm on. Technically, it's Whiskey Thursday for me right now. So
Yeah, I know. Yeah, happy Thursday.
yeah.
Eric, good
Happy
morning.
Thursday. Start another day. Turn another page in the calendar.
So maybe this one has more context for me because I thought it was really funny. I just, I don't know why I think that's so funny.
Does your dog stare you down for? Oh, because you always wrestle your dog.
Yeah. Oh, you just said.
We have a guest meme.
We gotta check. We got 2 more to check. 2 more. This have to.
Oh gosh, that's funny. Oh,
Did you guys see that one?
monkeypox. Oh, you silly monkeypox.
What is monkey?
It's not good, apparently. But
I don't want it.
it's like smallpox, but it's like a not as violent version of that. So
Yeah.
see, I know things. I drink and I know things.
Hold on, Randall. Hold on, buddy. Randall sent us one more. He's asking for us to throw it on there.
Okay.
So we'll grab it. Randall,
Without
did
further
you
ado,
send it to the?
has this been?
Instagram
Is this cleared? What do they call it? What's the review board?
We do not have a review board on the Whiskey Wednesday show.
What do they call it? Practices? What's it called? Standards and practices.
Yeah. Oh, Randall, I love it, Randall. Hold on.
Oh, you're gonna make the show.
Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I don't screw this up. I think this is it. Pause.
What the fuck? Oh, because that's his arm. Oh, he cut off his hand.
Is this a dad moment? Is this a proud dad moment? I mean, son traumatized.
Like a squeal.
Oh, the poor kid.
So now I have to do that this week.
I hope that's the one, Dizzle.
With a fake finger
Yeah.
or something like that. That'd be funny.
I can do that one here. Here you go, Eric.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
All right, I'm going to bed, boys.
Thank you, boys.
Whiskey Thursday is now a thing. Hashtag Whiskey Thursday.
Eric drinks in the mornings.
I know, right? Apparently I drink in the AM now. Oh, he said there was a different one. He said we can't know. We got to find it.
Hold on, Randall.
Oh,
Before we bring it to a close.
It's because all my shit's turned off by now. It's too late.
Better be very good, Randall. Maybe we have to save that one for next week.
I'm holding up. Hold on. Give me
Our
one
production
second.
production
here it is.
company.
He's right. He's got it right here.
Our producer is not really good with the technology just yet. You think after 4 weeks. Right? This is our 4th episode, right?
This is, yeah.
Well, congratulations, guys. We did it a month, in theory.
We got another freaking.
Are the networks going to pick us up for a full
16.
season?
Randall, well done. We salute Randall tonight.
Cheers.
Miners to the crypto. Bull miners.
Dang it. Okay, gents. Till next time. Thank
Well
you,
done.
everyone, for whoever listened or is listening.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night, boys.
Good night.